Nobody, no crime. Well, not on my time. Eyes are watching, giving victims a voice. Raise your voice from Delphi to Camden, and there will be no more botching. We might not be Dateline, but come along if you want a great time. Grab yourself a glass of wine, and let's talk some true crime. And hey, you'll even have an alibi if you collect evidence in red Solo cups. If your expert says it just did, you might have a problem. We might not be Dateline, but come along if you want a great time. Grab yourself a glass of wine, and let's talk some true crime. And hey, you'll even have an
Hello again, everyone. Well, I was able to get some stuff done, and so I wanted to bring you a little information on this new case that I've been looking into. And hi, Rhonda. How are you? Oh, where is that at? Well, you were just watching it on your thing? Skinny Chicken. Hello. First in, Wendy, you were number one. Excellent. Fantastic. Hi, Lori. Yes, excellent. I need to watch that after this. So, I wanted to share with you a couple little tidbits from some stuff from Law and Crime, right? That's going to kind of explain the case a little bit, and then if that doesn't explain it fully, I want to let you guys know some things that I found out and find interesting about this case. So it's the case of Nolan Wells out of Mississippi, specifically Ocean Springs, Mississippi. So, hi, Christy. How are you? Good to see you. Trial Files has it. Okay, that's where I will go to watch it after this then. Fantastic. Oh, thank you, Christy. Thank you. All right. Well, give me a second here, and I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go ahead and get into this. First, if you have heard of this case, put a 1 in the chat, and if you have not heard of this case, put a 2 in the chat. Kind of want to gauge who has heard of it and who has not heard of it. All right. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Wow. Okay. 1. All right. 1. Okay. Some more 1s are coming in. I was like, wow. Okay. Okay. So probably seems like about half and half then, maybe. Okay, perfect. The virtual juror says, I'm glad you're covering this though, Lauren. I don't know a lot about the specifics yet. Yeah, and virtual juror, I don't know if a lot of the specifics are out there because they are not being very transparent, which is part of the family's frustration. So we're going to see what we can kind of glean from that. I don't usually find anything good in that situation. Courtney from Florida, how are you? Seen the headlines, but I haven't followed the case. Yes. Okay. Katina, how are you? Heard of it, but I don't know much about the details. All right, we're going to go into it a little bit today. That's the thing. They're not really putting a whole lot of details out there, but we're going to let Jesse Weber tell us a little bit about it. So, let's bring that up here and share my screen with you guys. Let's see. Hello, Sherry. There we go. Share. And then add to stage. Okay, guys. All right. Thumbs up in the chat. Hi, side eyes. Thumbs up in the chat when you can hear the volume. Make sure you guys are hearing it okay. All right. Let's try it. I'm going to mute myself and then we will put the volume on.
It's a contradiction. They're not saying the same thing. One of them is telling the truth. One of them is not.
Discrepancies, conflicting accounts. This is now part of the Nolan Wells investigation. You're going to hear people ask whether someone is lying, which is very fair given the reporting. It's time to review the questions and the contradictions related to the case of Nolan Wells' death. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. I think to list out all the apparent contradictions, the unanswered questions in the Nolan Wells death investigation, the discrepancies that we're seeing. I just wanted to condense it all so you have it all here to make sense of it. Is someone lying? Is anyone lying? Who would be lying? What's not adding up? Now, we're not going to make accusations that people aren't telling the truth, but what we're going to try to do here is show you the difference of opinion, the different narratives, the contradictions, the apparent contradictions. Now, we're talking, of course, about Nolan Wells, the 18-year-old Southwest Mississippi Community College football player, graduate of Ocean Springs High, who disappeared while boating with friends on Horn Island, right off the coast of Mississippi during the July 4th weekend. Access to that island is limited to boats. It's a wilderness area. There's no commercial development. That's a very specific area. Now, he reportedly
All right, guys. So you were kind of getting a little like some tidbits of the area, which is also important. So Mississippi, there's an area called Horn Island. I believe it's about 11 miles long. And we have similar areas here on the panhandle. Like the first one I think of is Fort McRae because it's very close to where I am in Pensacola. You have to get there by boat. The island has nothing on it. It's really just desolate. Some bushes, cactus, sea plants, and a little bit of a beach, like very small little beach area. So you have to take a boat to get there, and it's just a place to go for the day to hang out. You bring all your food and drinks and everything, and you just enjoy it. It's beautiful. It's desolate. And so this seems like a very similar place just in Mississippi. And on holidays, Fort McRae, things like that are packed because that's where people go. You don't want to be down here in summertime for holidays. It's going to be extremely packed. It's a little less packed when you can only get there by boat. So the island itself that he was on, not much you could really do on the island, but maybe some drinking games, some ring toss stuff on the little beach because it wasn't a big beach area. All right, let's get back to this.
Didn't return with his group of friends on their boat that day. His family reported him missing the night of July 4th after receiving a phone call at around 11 p.m. from one of his friends. So again, the report came in, late July 4th, early July 5th. His body was found on the island that Monday, July 6th, washed ashore. His family is demanding transparency. They are demanding a full investigation, a thorough investigation into what happened. And as you know, if you've been following our coverage here, you know that they have retained civil rights attorney Ben Crump. So let's get into the discrepancies. Let's get into the contradictions. One of the biggest contradictions right now is What was Nolan doing? What were Nolan's movements that day? So Ben Crump held a press conference that the boys on the boat had claimed that Nolan went to Horn Island and decided to talk to a girl. Even one of the boys' mothers, Ashley Cole, according to WLOX, confirmed that her son said that. Her son was apparently with all them that day, and also confirmed that the boys had taken off because of boat trouble, which we're going to talk about, and that seems to be true. I'm going to explain that in a minute. But the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
All right, so here we have the starting of the contradictory stories. I brought your comment up here, MN, because you personally think he had too much to drink and drown. So definitely possibility. I will say that I've heard from the family and other people in interviews that he was an excellent swimmer. He was an athlete. Could it have happened? Absolutely. For me, I feel like there would have had to be like something similar to maybe like a head injury that would incapacitate you in the water. A strong swimmer, even with a lot of, alcohol, there would have to be a lot of things that led up to that, in my opinion. But it certainly could play a part. And, depending on his toxicology report that comes back, that'll be something that will be taken into consideration. But I'm hearing that it's going to take like 6 months, which is insane. Especially for a high profile case, they can certainly bump that up. But so here you have the boys that he went out with, his friends on the boat, and one of those, I don't know if it's one of the boys in the photo or another one that was just with them that day. His mom is a judge, so very well connected to the town that they live in and the law enforcement agents that are working this case, which, as we know, in other cases can be extremely problematic when you're wanting an independent, transparent investigation. So, potentially that could play a part. Even if those boys had absolutely nothing to do with it, they still, if there's connections, those people, they can't touch it, because we've seen what will happen in a trial. God forbid something nefarious did happen. So it's just not a good situation. So that's why the family is coming out saying we just want an independent investigation that doesn't have any connections to the town, which is certainly fair. And if it was your loved one, you certainly would want that as well. All right, let's continue.
Office said that it believes Nolan stayed on the island. ABC News is reporting that one of Nolan's purported friends, Trayston Shepard, claims Nolan wanted to stay back to talk to a girl and that he would come back on another friend's boat. Shepard saying they met that day, and it's kind of one of those things. He did come off that day, that he really did like her, but that was the only time they ever hung out. Now, what is in dispute is whether Nolan actually did that. So that's one perspective, right? That's one narrative. But according to Ben Crump, this girl allegedly said that Nolan told her he was going back to the boat, as Crump said in the presser.
They're not saying the same thing. One of them is telling the truth. One of them is not. We have to get to the bottom of that.
According to People, Nolan's mother, Christine Wonsley, spoke to this young lady as well. Christine said in an interview with the Griot, she did reach out to me initially, just saying basically like it was a hey and bye type situation. That interview, by the way, was published July 14th. ABC News claims that they tried to contact this young woman, that authorities have announced they've been interviewing anyone Wells came into contact with that day. So presumably they spoke to her, right? Look, we don't know her identity. We haven't heard from her publicly, but you're seeing this apparent contradiction about what Nolan maybe did. And by the way, we haven't really heard from anyone else on the boat or on the island that day, Pup.
All right. So I'm going to bring up Chastity's comment. So Chastity's saying he's on an island, hot day, alcohol involved, dehydration, cramps. There could be a lot of factors and it not be something nefarious. Absolutely. It absolutely could be something that has nothing to do with any kind of wrongdoing. The problem I have with that is apparently what the first words of the investigators was, does it look like there's any kind of nefarious act or anything like that? However, you investigate every homicide as if there is something suspicious until you can prove that there wasn't. So that right there, first off, I don't like that. That's not how you investigate a case. You haven't done an investigation, but you're saying there doesn't look to be any kind of anything. I forget their exact words. So I don't like that. Especially because you have two different parties saying completely two different things. Also, absolutely, alcohol is probably going to play a factor. Now, how much of a factor, I don't know. However, the other problem I have with that is there hasn't anyone that has come out that has said he was super drunk, like wasted, couldn't stand, like couldn't speak correctly. None of that has been alleged. So does that mean it wasn't true? No, but I just think that also doesn't go to that narrative. Even the girl, even her story doesn't allege he was drunk. The boy's story doesn't allege that he was drunk. So we have to take all of those into consideration and see how all of those pieces fit together. All right, let's keep going with the video here.
Publicly, which adds to the confusion. Everyone is tight-lipped. All right, real quick, not to take away from this, but we have this really, really cool sponsor that supports what we do. And I got to say, worn out belt, but Anson belt, Navy belt. And adjust. It's stylish. And by the way, since every strap and buckle are interchangeable,
nobody wants your belt,
always
Jesse.
going to have a belt that perfectly matches your outfit. They also have over 40,000. Yeah, so based on that brief report and accounts from NBC News. Yeah, so based on that brief report and accounts from NBC News and the New York Post, it appears that boat likely had 7 people on board. The boat was having trouble at around 4 p.m. The boat operator reportedly said, hey, we're at the west tip of Horn and our bilge pump stopped working. I want to get this boat unsank and towed back. So the boat was reportedly towed for 3 miles, picked up speed less than an hour later. But look, that still raises a question, right? It raises a question about Nolan's whereabouts. It also creates a discrepancy in the timeline. Everybody on board? Was Nolan on board? Probably not based on the timeline, though maybe saying everybody on board is just saying, yeah, everybody's on board. I'm not saying, Nolan was there or Nolan wasn't there. If he wasn't there, I'm just saying everybody who was there was on board. Now, CBS News also obtained GPS data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources that tracked the boat's movements. This is big too, because this is information they say they obtained via records request. And according to the reporting, the vessel apparently left the dock at approximately 9:56 that morning, arrived at Horn Island at 11:14. According to GPS data, the boat left Horn Island at 4:31 that afternoon, returned to its original departure dock. It then traveled into Fort Bayou at around 5:52 before returning to the dock at 6:06. Later that evening, the boat went to the Fort Bayou boat launch at 7:19, traveled overland, which would suggest it was towed by a vehicle to the owner's residence. So to put that into perspective and why it matters, Ben Crump claims Nolan was last seen on the island at 3 p.m. Again, according to Ashley Cole, the mother, her son, right? She's a local judge, by the way. She says her son claims he last saw Nolan at around 3 p.m. on the island, and her son left at 4:30 p.m. Now, we haven't seen necessarily a discrepancy in terms of when Nolan was last seen, but this is something to keep in mind, right? This is one of those outstanding questions. And the DMR report that was obtained by CBS News indicated that the boat's owner, his mother, and another person who was with Nolan, they are cooperating with the investigation. We will see if the timeline.
All right. So, the timeline for me, for the boys and their journey back makes sense to me. It seems like they left at an appropriate time, especially if you're having like engine problems, all of that. Also, like it takes a while to get back. So all of that makes perfect sense. Certainly, if there were 7 people on board, they would know who was there and who wasn't. So, and I don't think that's even like really no, I don't think anyone is arguing that he didn't come back, but his keys, his wallet, and his phone were on the boat and went back to the marina without him. So, and I'm seeing these comments. Where were they? Courtney. Courtney, I'm with you. I don't somehow this has seemed to transfer into a black and white issue for me. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. This doesn't seem to be that case. Now, there are many cases that do have racial undertones, and I just don't see it being this one. It doesn't matter if he is white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. There needs to be an independent investigation done regardless. If it was another white kid, same thing. Them saying nothing to see here and not investigating and just saying everything looks like it's probably a drowning is not okay for anybody of any color skin. So I personally don't see it. I don't think this was the case for them to get involved. I'm assuming they're just wanting to get more eyes on this. I don't know if it's necessarily the kind of eyes that they're wanting. I think that kind of divides, my opinion. Now, if it's a real racial issue, okay, fine, great. I just don't see this case as that. So I feel you. Let's see. Rhonda says, my girlfriend's son was found deceased on a dirt road in a puddle. They blamed it on alcohol because he was at a college party drinking the night before. That seems incredibly sus, Rhonda. Is this a recent case? That seems a bit weird. Yeah, I mean, look, alcohol and water don't really mix. However, I don't know. You would think that with that many people there, now I know for a fact that the attorneys have been getting a lot of photos from people that were on that island as well. I haven't heard anybody say people have come forth saying they saw him drunk, couldn't walk straight, not able to form his words properly. I haven't heard any of that. So I would expect something like that if people were going to allege it was an alcohol thing. It's too early, and the fact is they're not being transparent about any of it, which is a problem. And again, if you want to get the public's trust, you have to do an investigation. You can't just say, everything looks fine. It looks like this. That's not how we investigate things. It's just not. You have to investigate it like it is suspicious until it is proven otherwise. So I don't like that. I don't like how they started with that. That doesn't give me confidence in those investigators whatsoever. What's up, Kazi? All right. If someone is drunk, passes out in a puddle, and there's enough to block the airway, it doesn't take much water. It doesn't take much water, but what are the chances? That's interesting. Did someone assist his head in going in that puddle? I don't know. That you're having a really unlucky day. That if of all the places you landed in a puddle of enough water. Could it happen? Yes. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I've seen too many things that you have to investigate stuff like that. That seems crazy. It was a couple years ago. Okay. That's awful. Let's see. All right, guys, let's go back to our video. Let's see what else we find out.
Shifts, but this is one of the questions again about Nolan's movements. Now, the biggest discrepancy here is Nolan's family says this is not like Nolan. It is unlike him to stay behind and leave his group of friends. His father, Elmore Wonsley, said to GMA, Good Morning America, we always taught him that if you go with a group, you stay with a group. If you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group, because I always said safety is in numbers. So he knew to stay with this group. So why would he split from the group? I don't know. When they said that, it turned me off, but it raised a question. I know he wouldn't do that. I preach that to him every day. You're lying to me. Now, there's also been quite a big back and forth about whether he ever made it back to the boat, back to the mainland, because it centers around this photo of a party, a photo that seemingly, arguably, shows Nolan at this pool party early in the morning of July 5th. So in other words, if you believe that, the idea would be he left the boat, made it to the mainland, went to this party, died somehow, brought back to Horn Island afterwards, and then found dead and washed ashore. I mean, that would be presumably what happened, right? The problem is, look, Ben Crump even apparently shared this photo, again, of what people believe to be Nolan at this party. And according to the New York Post, Crump posted this photo to social media. And this was a post that was circulated by Crump. This was from an account called Chanel Tarot TV. The streets are talking. Now, listen, I don't know if these are facts or rumors because no official statements have been confirmed. We sometimes have to follow all clues until the truth is found. Here's what was discovered on social media last night. Social media allegations claim a photo exists of Nolan at a land-based pool party in Jackson County before 1 a.m. on July 5th. But the discrepancy, the contradiction, Shepard, right, who I mentioned before, Nolan's purported friend, said that photo wasn't from July 5th. It wasn't from that weekend. It was actually from a party on June 27th in Pass Christian, Mississippi. Rolling Stone reported that photo was taken at 11:58 p.m. that night in June, with the outlet confirming that another person.
All right. So that seems pretty easy to corroborate or, say, okay, no. So that doesn't seem like it should take a whole lot. And also, seems like a silly thing for his attorney to share, just my opinion. Yeah. So it seems a little weird that nobody's going to a pool party and then taking him back out on a boat, especially. And then what boat is it, right? The one is supposedly has engine trouble, and that seems to have been kind of confirmed at this point. So that seems very unlikely. I don't think he left the island. So that's just my personal opinion. I can't see a world where that happened. So Val says, I saw that photo on Threads a couple of weeks back. I want to know who that grown ass man in the photo surrounded by a bunch of high schoolers with USA shaved in his chest. I don't know. I did not see the photo. But if they're saying this is in another part of Mississippi, obviously they're going to be able to find out where that was and corroborate who was there and when it was. So that does not seem like a hard feat at all. And it seems like Crump could have done just a tiny bit of digging to corroborate if that was on that date before posting it, in my opinion. But, whatever. All right. So they haven't gotten to it yet, but allegedly he was always on his phone, always on social media. So he had no anything basically since the time that his phone was in that boat and went back to the island or the dock with his friends. And during that time, it appears that his 2 Snapchats were pretty much wiped. All the messages deleted, all of it, which wasn't something he did. So again, that is weird. So I'm hoping that they get into that here. All right, let's keep on going.
Person provided them with metadata for that photo and other photos from that night. So Ben Crump was asked about this, right? Ben Crump was asked about that development at a press conference this week, kind of went on the defensive. He said, I didn't share the photo. I just reposted it.
We're reposting everything. Let's make it clear. We're reposting everything because we're trying to get people to come in and call. And so we've said from the beginning, we're in a ferocious search for the truth. And so things out there, we are trying to post, ask people, do you know something about this? Let us know. Just because we repost does not mean that we authenticate anything.
There's been a lot of discrepancies and contradictions and different narratives about whether a fight or altercation took place too. So Ben Crump mentioned that there is a video circulating on social media on or near Horn Island in which he seemed to claim that Nolan might be heard, that he might be heard saying, quote, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing?" During a press conference, when he was asked, look, how do you know that that's Nolan's voice? Crump reportedly said that multiple people identified it as Nolan's. But according to ABC News, Nolan's friend, Mr. Shepard, claims that there was no altercation, that Nolan wasn't involved. Shepard even says Nolan isn't in the video. He said, quote, "That's me yelling." There was no talk about a phone in that video. Nolan wasn't on the island. Shepard says that this was a fight with a stranger. Shepard told Rolling Stone, "Those were not Nolan's words. They were mine. I get that everybody wants justice for Nolan. Everybody wants to know exactly what happened." Now, Crump was asked about that this week at another presser, and he said, "That's what a witness told us, and that's what we put out." And then another witness has come forward and said, "No, that was his voice. We have other witnesses who said there were other altercations. We're trying to go through it all. We have audio people doing it, but we know certain people said it was him, and there are certain people who say it was not him." By the way, there is also no clear consensus on Nolan's phone either. Ben Crump said at a press conference last week, quote, "What teenager would leave their phone behind if they're going to stay on this island? What teenager wouldn't take their phone? It's not adding up at all." And he
All right. So, I'm going to pull this up. MBI claims that the coordinates of the boat that they were on matches up with movements of what people say on the boat it was. Yeah, that I don't have the least bit of concerns about. It clearly they went where they said they were going to do. I don't think that's really, I don't think anyone disputes that. It seems to be whether or not he was on the boat with them or not. So it's interesting. Also, the timeline that they mentioned to me makes sense. So that seems legit. Again, it seems odd given. Now, again, could he have been completely drunk and not realize he left his phone on the boat? Absolutely. That could make the phone part make sense. Other than him being completely wasted, where he had no idea where his phone was, the phone part to me is odd because you're going to need that. You're on an island and you're going to, need to get in touch with your friends at some point. He had keys and wallets there and all of that. So that, other than him being trashed, that's weird to me. Also, I feel like Crump shouldn't put out everything. Like maybe you try to do a little bit of investigation before you put it out. Also, this is why the actual authorities and independent entity needs to get involved. There needs to be an investigation, period. You have to have one. Now, might it be something simple as drinking, drowning? Sure. But you have to prove that it was. You either prove it was or wasn't. It's one or the other. And at the end of the day, they have Nolan's phone. So they're able to look at his activities on the phone, text, social media, all of that. They need to have the others, whether it be all of the friends that he came with, this girl that he supposedly met up with or met that day. They need everyone's phone and they need to corroborate their stories. It needs to be done. And if it isn't done, then you have attorneys like Crump going out there saying, well, we got this, we heard that, and people told us this, they shared us this picture in this video, but we can't see if it's him, but we hear, it sounds like his voice. Then you just have like speculation. So that's why the authorities need to step up and get an independent branch or entity to do this investigation with transparency and no bias. And this young man deserves that. So that's, I mean, and it doesn't seem like that is happening, which I think is the family's frustration. And then the autopsy, from my understanding, has been completed, but they haven't gotten the results back yet. So they're having an independent autopsy done, which is good. But a lot of people don't have funds to do that. So I think that is maybe one of the things that maybe a benefit of having Crump come on board is it does get media attention. A lot of celebrities have spoken up against, not against, but have spoken up in defense of him, saying it needs to be an independent investigation, which it absolutely does. So I think, those are the benefits of maybe having Crump on board. While I'm not the biggest fan, it does pull in more eyes, and, maybe they were able to raise funds, or I know like Tyler Perry donated and paid for his funeral, which was very kind. So maybe things like that were donated so that they could get this independent autopsy. All right, let's continue. Music. I know you were asking about what was going on. We are going over a case out of Mississippi. Nolan Wells, he went missing on the 4th of July. There is multiple conflicting stories. And, excuse me. And his body was found 2 days later on the island. So he has ties. His friends that he went with have ties to judges and law enforcement and things like that. They're not doing an independent investigation, and that's, all the family is really wanting. So we're going over it. All right, let's see what else Jesse says.
He reportedly also highlighted that the family seemingly believes data, messages on that phone, on Nolan's phone, may have been deleted. And we believe that the family actually recovered his phone from Nolan's friends using the Life 360 app. But Nolan's friend, again, Mr. Shepard, told ABC it's not unusual for people to leave their phones in boats. Shepard's uncle, who was apparently driving one of the boats that day, confirmed that. Shepard said, quote, "All our friends are out there. Who are we communicating with? And we're in saltwater. We're not in freshwater." When Nolan got in the water, he put his phone on the boat dash along with probably 15 other phones. And this is another update, by the way, as we try to get to the truth about the phone. We have learned from Ben Crump that Nolan's phone will undergo a mutual inspection by both state investigators and the family's own experts. So that could be a game changer. That could be very interesting. It's different to see that, right? A mutual inspection. I spoke to attorney Tyler Bailey about this. Take a look.
It's highly unusual that a victim's family, along with their attorney, would be allowed to participate with law enforcement in the inspection of a cell phone data that is really the crux, one of the crucial pieces of evidence with this case. I don't think that would have happened without a lot of the chatter going on around the country about.
Also, that tells me, guys, that they aren't really doing a very thorough investigation, because if they were, they wouldn't let that stuff happen until way after. So that, again, doesn't look good, in my opinion, for them, that they are going to be putting forth a lot of effort into looking into this. My opinion only. MN says Jackson County Sheriff's Department, where this took place, has asked Mississippi Bureau of Investigations to help out. So that's great. My question is, are they asking them to help out or take over the investigation? Because they can't have their hands in it. There is links to one of his friends that was with him that day to a judge, and that's a problem. And judges are connected to law enforcement. So I hope they're asking them to take over the case instead of just help out, because we know with Canton stuff, they weren't supposed to have anything to do with it, and they still had their hands in stuff, and that's just not proper. So that, I guess, would be my follow-up question to that. And thank you for all the local info and goodies. We love it. All right, let's pause and play.
How this investigation has transpired. And it shows there's some distrust between the family and law enforcement here. So there should be some forensic experts regarding data extraction present with the state, and also there will likely be an independent one that Mr. Crump's office has present with the DA at the same time. So that way, everybody can see it at the same time, whether all data is being extracted, make sure nothing's being left behind, because the big issue here is that the early announcement of no foul play, the evidence of the cell phone that the family received, I believe a couple of days after Nolan went missing, or the night of, I can't recall the exact time, and then the missing of text messages and Snapchat data. And by allowing joint experts or joint data extraction at the same time, it's going to help the family feel comfortable knowing that all data is being looked at, is not being piecemeal. Because oftentimes I've seen cases where there's been a cell phone data that's been extracted and the state says, oh, well, that's other information deleted, we can't get it. But that's not normal. When a forensic expert can see what's been deleted, what's been altered in the data.
Now, I would say, obviously, the biggest discrepancy, the biggest question we have right now, the biggest mystery, how did Nolan die? What was the cause of death? Look, at this time, the results of the state's official autopsy, meaning the one from the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Lab, have not been released. Seemingly, there are pending toxicology findings that they need to get a hold of. We also do not have the results of the independent autopsy that has been ordered by Nolan's family through Ben Crump, where Nolan's body was apparently taken to Washington, D.C. Ben Crump said the delay was due to canceled flights. Now, in an episode where we're talking about contradictions, if these two autopsies do not match up, if the results are inconsistent, that's going to be an issue. Ben Crump told Don Lemon that the independent autopsy will find out, quote, if he had any physical injuries to his body beyond drowning. Here's how retired Detective Matt Irvine thinks about it.
It's not unusual to have more than one autopsy in a case, and it's not unusual for medical professionals to disagree, any more than it'd be unusual for scientists or other eminent professionals to disagree about how to interpret facts in a case. The autopsy itself, at least the preliminary autopsy, both the official one and the private one commissioned by the family, should be complete or close to complete now or very soon. But there's additional steps like looking at toxicology, for example, that may take, again, additional weeks. So that's going to take a while. I think that probably additional potential witnesses may be identified besides the group of friends that went to the island with Mr. Wells. Those interviews may take additional days and weeks. They're probably going to be re-interviews as they gain information from one person that requires them to go back and clarify or confirm information with somebody they've already talked to. So I think we're probably talking about a matter of weeks, both for the Jackson County Sheriff's investigation and hopefully for the independent investigation sought by the family and by Mr. Crump. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too much longer than that. The tough thing about a case like this is sometimes even after all the information is in, you don't have a clear answer. I mean, for example, if the determination is that he drowned, well, that's a cause of death. It's not a manner of death, right? You could drown accidentally, you could drown by suicide, you could drown by homicide. So we might, at the end of the day, have all the facts in and still not have an answer that satisfies the grieving family or other people that are concerned about what happened.
Because the forensic evidence wouldn't be so clear to suggest how someone drowned, right? I mean, how could you show?
All right, which is exactly why you need a full investigation, because one piece of information alone doesn't do it, especially in a case like this. You need a full investigation. So where's you going to talk if something happened? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, not if their mom was a judge, and before she was a judge, she was an attorney, and you grew up like around attorneys. You don't talk. I don't know. I don't think it's as easy as that. And what if the girl's lying? Did something happen, with her? Was there somebody? I mean, you could go down a lot of rabbit holes. Like, did someone not like the fact that he was showing interest in her on the island that day? I mean, there's a lot of things. I don't know who's lying, but somebody's lying, because there's two completely different stories. And 2 days later, he was found face down on the little tiny bit of beach on, the island. So something's not adding up. Let's see. MBI hasn't been able to take over the case fully. They're only helping out with recovery of data from the phone, if any was deleted. Was what was reported 4 days ago. Okay. All right. Well, I hope that they're able to take it over fully. And it seems like a case where they're going to have the funds and the resources to be able to do their own looking into, like, the forensics of the phone. To me, that's very important. If there's messages that are deleted when he is not on the boat, that's huge. And what are they able to pull them back up to see what they said? I mean, this is potential huge evidence. So I'm glad that they will at least be able to have the resources to look into a lot of these things. But, obviously the investigation has to go on, because you can only get someone to look into it. But if they don't want to look into it as much as you want them to, what are the chances that they're going to do it and do it properly? So hopefully, with the public scrutiny of the case and people talking about it, they'll do it. I think they have nothing to lose. It should have been done anyways. And, they owe it to this young man and his family to do a thorough, proper investigation. And them saying, yeah, it doesn't look like anything, happened here, looks like a drowning, and we're just gonna be done with it. That's not proper, especially with the contradictory statements from the boys and this girl, who are saying very different things. Plus his family, who taught him, and good on them for teaching. I think that's fantastic, and recommend everyone teaching their children that you don't leave someone behind. You just don't. You leave with who you came with. And too many things happen if you leave your group. It's just not a good mix. I've seen way too many things. So for them knowing their son and how he was taught and the things that he has experienced and his behavior up until his 18th year of life, that would have been contradictory to what he normally did. So there's a lot of things that don't add up. So we just need a thorough, full, transparent, unbiased investigation all around. Nona says, I'm late, so it may have already been said, but I read that Colin Kaepernick and Tyler Perry paid for the independent autopsy. Okay. That was my assumption, Nona, but I wasn't sure. I knew that Tyler Perry paid for the funeral, but again, that does not surprise me. So I love actually seeing that from people who are fortunate to have more money and being generous with their money when something like this happens. I don't know their financial situation, but it's a burden on anyone, even if they are, decent off, right? That's a huge expense. So I love seeing the kindness from others being shared. And so that's wonderful. All right, let's see what else we got on this video, where I don't think we have too much longer on it.
Unless there was some sort of blunt force trauma or some sort of evidence of, he was held down or pushed in the water or something like that, it'd be really hard to know.
Exactly. And even if there are some injuries to his body, depending on the injuries, they could be something caused by another person or caused by a body being in a rough current.
There's not even an official conclusion or consensus on when or where Nolan died. Did he die on land? Did he die in the water? Did he die in a boat? His body was found on July 6th in the water by the island. And there are questions that remain about why he wasn't found earlier. Ben Crump said in an earlier press conference, quote, he went missing on July 4th, and they say his body should have been there on July 5th. Why would it not appear until July 6th? That's one of those things that's just not adding up. Now, I asked Brian Trasher from the United Cajun Navy about this. He was part of the search efforts for Nolan. He was there when Nolan's body was found. He's up in the air. Now, keep in mind, this was early on because Nolan's body wasn't even officially ID'd yet, but take a look at what he said in this.
So just a heads up, I heard this guy on a show. The guy thinks nothing happened and it's a flat out drowning. Now, for him to say that is wild to me because that's wild. So take what he says with that in mind, that he's already got his mind made up without any kind of investigation. So let's listen. I don't know what he's going to say here, but I saw him on another show.
Earlier interview. Just to clarify something, why wasn't the body spotted earlier?
I think that I can tell you that I've started flying over the island, that part of the island where the body washed up, approximately 6:30 a.m. And I believe he was spotted by a park ranger at 8:45. My belief is that he just washed up within that time period because we were flying kind of a long grid north and south. And I think he just washed up, and park ranger just doing his normal runs in the morning. But also, too, given the situation, I'm sure they were a little more hyper aware and probably a little more head on a swivel on the island, knowing what happened and what was going on. But yeah, I was told that it was about 8:45 when a ranger spotted, called it in, because I did see a long line of emergency boats coming heading southwest. Toward the northwest tip of the island. My opinion is that when he went into the water, however he got into the water, he didn't go that far out before he drowned because it only took like a couple of days for him to drift right back south to the tip of the island, same tip of the island where he was last seen. Had he gone a lot further out, he probably would have got.
Okay, so this guy is Captain Obvious. So when people go and they dock up to these islands, their whole purpose is to hang out in the shallow sandbar that is right there. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like no one is going there to go scuba diving. People dock up and you're in waist deep water most of the time. And that's that. You just hang out and you play drinking games, you listen to music, you eat, you drink, and you have a jolly good time with your friends. So, I agree, but like not because it took rocket science, just that that's just what these places like this are. You can see the water is very pretty by shore. People dock up and you hop out of the boat and you're in waist deep water. So it's all very like surface level. You're not going and doing crazy stuff out in deep water, which is also odd to me, given that he drowned. So my question is like, did he bump his head? Was there an altercation? Did he just hit his head and fell off because he was drunk? I don't know. But again, the most of the activities you're going to be in any kind of water where you're touching. So all right, let's get back to this.
Gotten sucked into the channel and pushed way further south toward the Chandelier Islands.
And I mean, another source of discrepancy, or perhaps why the family is working with an independent team and investigators conducting an independent investigation, is that authorities with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and other agencies have initially said they don't suspect foul play. There's a question, is it too early to say that? Why did they say that? Look, the sheriff seemed to indicate that Wells' body did not have homicidal trauma, that it seems like drowning. But he also said that even without the autopsy coming out. And the coroner indicated that he's not going to speculate yet. By the way, this is according to People magazine and ABC 7 reporting. Interestingly, WLBT3 reported that Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves has joined the conversation, commenting on this case for the first time, saying, "What I will simply say is I don't know all of the details. I don't know all of the facts surrounding the case. I have yet to see a fact or a piece of evidence that suggests any foul play. But if there is, I feel confident that the sheriff's office, the district attorney's office, the members at the Department of Public Safety that deal with these crimes, if there had been one, they will find it and they will do what is necessary. But look, talk about discrepancies, the family.
So here's the thing with that. We don't just accept crimes for what they look like. That's not what an investigator does, period. You have to rule out anything suspicious. You rule it out, then okay. So to Kubi's point, was it crowded? They were saying there was about 200 people there on the island. To me, that doesn't seem super crowded. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of where I am down here on a holiday weekend. There's going to be more boats and more people than that. Maybe it was for that place crowded, but they're saying about 200 people. So, I guess my question to that would be, at what part of the island? Obviously, there's more than likely a certain spot that everyone comes to. So was everyone kind of concentrated to that part of the island, and they were all in that little area? Because then that would make it more crowded. Or were they dispersed out over the 11 miles of the island? So, but certainly, somebody has photos, or kids take photos, Snapchat photos, videos, all that stuff. So I'm sure they are getting evidence sent to them and all of that. Let's see. Yeah, as of right now, it looks like he drowned, and that's what they're saying. That it was just a drowning with nothing nefarious. But there's a lot of things that don't make sense. There's the boys that he came with saying one thing, and the girl that he allegedly went and hung out with saying something completely different. So there's multiple stories out there. And then his phone, keys, and wallet were all on the boat and made their way back with the boys, but he did not. Okay. It's a sandbags party. They're all crowded together in a giant group. Would be my guess. Yeah, and we have so many of those, here down here. We have a couple islands, like Crab Island, Crab Island. It's a huge sandbar, and the water is, most of the time during high tide, it's crystal clear. It looks like the Bahamas, and you make it an all-day thing. You put your anchor out and you're there. There's Fort McRae. Same thing. Fort McRae is more like this island where you can see it, kind of thing, and boats kind of go all around, but you're not going to have a big gap between boats. So you're still going to have like people within seeing distance from each other. So, but yeah, it's shallow water, waist deep, unless you're jumping off the boat, right? Now, in this, again, the two islands, that's why I started with the Fort McRae thing. For me, it seems like that is very closely related to this island from what they're showing of pictures. Now, at the back of the boat, maybe they're jumping off, maybe he hit his head, had alcohol. It's possible. But again, why didn't you would think somebody would see that? So again, there could be nefarious things when it wasn't a nefarious thing. It was just an accident, could have knocked him out, and then they didn't say anything. I don't know. Things just aren't adding up. And at the very least, an independent investigation needs to be done, because there is bias here. If one of those kids that he came with, that he was friends with, something happened, we've seen it in so many cases. The law enforcement is not going to, they're going to look the other way, and his mom is a judge. So I don't know if the kid did anything. He may not have done anything. And he may be a victim in this, losing a friend. We don't know. But what I do know is that the investigation that this kid and his family deserves hasn't been done, and it needs to be. So, let's see. Yes. So this is so sad. I wonder what the girl is saying and what his friends on the boat are saying. So the friends on the boat are saying he told them he was going to get a ride back to the dock with someone else on another boat because he wanted to stay and hang out with this girl that he had met that he was interested in. However, the girl, whose name is Katie, said they hung out and talked for a little bit, but he said bye to her and he said, I'm going to get on the boat because they're headed out, which goes to the family's thought of he wouldn't have not gone with them. If he came with them, he would have gone with them. So they're saying two very different things. Now, if her story is correct, what happened? Like his items made it back on the boat, but he didn't. And then he's found a couple days later deceased on the island. So again, somebody is not accurate. Someone is lying about something. So there's either way, you've got to do an investigation. You can't just, everyone's life means more than that, than to just be like, meh, looks like a drowning because he's here, there's water, and like we can't start making that the norm. So the other boy's phone should have been taken and checked. 100%, Perry. The boat being taken from the water for repairs is too convenient. Yeah, so that part seems to add up, at least right now, for the little bit of investigation that has been done. It seems like there was some trouble with the engine, but they made it back. So how much trouble, I don't know. But 100%, her phone, the girl Katie, her phone should have been taken. All of their phones. Why? Because that can exonerate them too. It's, now we have everyone speculating because there are two different sides to this thing. And if there's nothing nefarious on the phone, that is one step further to clearing them. And that's what you want to do. Like, you have to eliminate these people because now there's all these things that are not adding up. So I agree 100%. I've almost gotten into a literal 20 versus 20 bar fight, all because some asshole is trying to dance with the girl that didn't want to dance with him. Yeah, absolutely. And look, that something like that could have happened. I mean, I have a very close friend who, I don't even know, there was a dumb bar fight. It wasn't even a bar fight. I think they were waiting to get in a bar, and there was words. The guy came over, punched him, and it knocked him out cold. And this guy is a big guy, like athlete, all of that. And he fell back on the concrete, hit his head, and he has brain damage, and he'll never be able to live, by himself. So things happen, and they happen very fast, and it doesn't have to be a super nefarious thing, but at the same time, something happened. So is it something like that? It's very possible. You have a lot of alcohol involved on the island, I'm sure, but I don't know. It is very strange. Let's see. I suspect there would be lots of calls from their phones. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you just want someone to be able to look at them and all of that to be investigated. And that's perfectly normal. Did the police look at the boat before it was taken to get serviced? I don't think so, because from my understanding, the boat was picked up that night, which is odd in itself too. Was there a connection to the boatyard that picked it up, or the tow that picked it up, and the shop that it went to with the boys? I have questions. There's a lot of convenient parts to this that, if something nefarious had gone on, seemed to work in their favor. Now, nothing has been confirmed or anything. However, if there was something nefarious, interesting timing for the boat to be taken, right? So it's a very fair point. I meant that if he left items behind that you typically wouldn't swim with. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the case too. Like, obviously you'd leave all of those things in the boat because you're in the water and you don't want them to get wet. I think what everybody is like saying is, like, if he was going to go on another boat, he would have got those items and put them on whoever's boat he was going to go with, and they didn't make it there. Now, was it because he was drunk? I don't know. Or was it because, he didn't make it back to that boat? I don't know, but it's interesting, right? Yeah, Colin Kaepernick paid for the independent autopsy take place. The results are supposed to come back in 2 weeks. Well, that's the good thing is, more than likely those will come back quicker. Now they can rush all the other ones. It's just a matter if are they going to do that? I've seen it both ways where they don't. So, when did they realize he was missing? So that was the thing, is that the kids didn't ever report it. The parents reported it when he didn't come back and they couldn't get him. I believe like that night, maybe like around midnight. I think that's when they reported it, because they're like, he would have come back with his friends, like always. And that was something that they, raised him to do. And, as a parent, your kid, the habits. Not that the kid is always going to do the exact same thing, but if that was something big for that family, I can certainly feel like they would have been like, nah, this is weird. So, all right, let's see what else we got here in this video. Veda's talking.
Family has concerns that something else might be going on here, raising questions about when he was found, why he went off on his own, no phone, but also how could no one see him? If it's a packed island, if he was drowning, no one saw him, no one came to help. And also they highlight he was athletic. He was in, quote, tip-top shape, that he knew how to swim. And you also have multiple things happening here. So not only the family seeking answers and the investigation moving forward, but this is concerning too. TMZ reports that the FBI office in Jackson announced that it is reviewing threats related to the Nolan Wells investigation. They don't specify what kind of threats, who was getting them, who they were directed at, but the FBI indicated, quote, these efforts are in parallel with Jackson County's independent investigation. According to WLOX, Sheriff John Ledbetter of Jackson County, indicated that the FBI is helping examine digital evidence in this case too. And just to add to this potential discrepancy over whether foul play is involved or not, and who could allegedly be involved or not, according to ABC News, Mr. Shepard said that investigators have spoken to him and his friends, and he emphasized that they have a diverse friend group. He indicated that he and his friend group have been receiving death threats since Nolan was found, that he wanted to speak out to clear up any misinformation, stating that neither he nor his friend group had anything to do with Nolan's death, that he rejects the idea of race being a part of this, considering the idea that Nolan Wells is Black, appears that he was around all white.
And that I don't think this is a race case at all. And that's why there's reasons for Crump and all of that to get involved, and it's to get eyes on it. I get it, but I don't think this is the case of the race case at all. It seems like a very diverse group of friends, so I don't think that plays a part here. I just don't. But I don't know, him speaking out, they want to, okay, well, give your phone to the cops. That would be a good foot forward, right? Like that would say a lot if you said, hey, here's my phone. There's nothing on it. I want to prove, at least for myself, that I didn't have anything to do with it. Here's my phone. Take an extraction from it. Do whatever you want to with it. I think that would go a long way. But you just saying, I reject the notion. Well, that's weird lingo for an 18-year-old to use. Maybe not so much if your mom's a judge. So I don't know. Honestly, somebody drowning in that situation and nobody noticing actually wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, it could happen. But again, if he was a really good swimmer, I mean, did he jump off of a boat and is he doing that with no one watching? It's weird. I don't know. I have questions. Now, could it have happened? Sure. But it's also odd with that many people. I don't know. I just have a lot of questions, and the one or two things alone don't make me have questions, but then when you have all these things that don't add up, then that makes the questions more, if that makes sense. I hope they check his heart. Athletes that have at that age sometimes have unexpected episodes and the bad thing happens. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm really glad that they're able to get that other independent autopsy. So many times, I know there's a case here that I worked where I was very like, this is some stick with you, this one does. And the way this is getting off on a tangent, but the way that she was discarded would have preserved her body, and like we found her soon enough to have a lot of evidence. There shouldn't have been an issue figuring out cause of death, manner of death whatsoever. He did her and her family a favor in the way that he disposed of her. However, because there was a coroner who wasn't even really a coroner, who did the autopsy, he wasn't able to determine cause of death or manner of death. So because of that, they took the death penalty off the table, and it was a whole thing. They figured out a way around it. It is back on the table now for this guy, but it's certainly not going to be nearly as strong. And they found her relatively quick. There is absolutely no reason that they would not have been able to find either or. And it, like, to this day still like pisses me off. This guy was not a medical examiner, and sometimes in small towns they have like people who aren't the medical examiner who perform the autopsies, and this was one of those cases. And so it just is horrible, and her family didn't have the money to have her exhumed and another one performed. So I'm very thankful that like people like Kaepernick or whatever were stepping up to give the money, because that's something a family should not have to just live with because they don't have the funds for that. So anyways, okay, this is something I wondered. Chad Hammock says none of the friends came to the funeral against legal advice. If my sons were really his friends, I would have forced them to go to pay respects to his body and his parents. That is something I wondered, Chad, and that answer is not what I wanted to hear, because that you're 100% correct. And also, like, how is that not in the best interest of your children? It's going to look worse if you don't go to your friend's funeral. I don't like that at all. I don't like it one bit. Wow. Okay. So thank you for that, because I had wondered that. And I hadn't seen it reported anywhere. So, I mean, what case does that remind us of? I mean, this is wild. Yeah. And so that goes back to me being like, okay, well, maybe this kid was just another victim and he lost a friend. Well, that right there doesn't make me, the public, think that by him not wanting to be at the funeral. You know, that's I don't like hearing that. Yeah, Kristen, exactly. Why didn't they go? His high school is not for low income people. Most of his friends and girlfriends wouldn't be black here. Wait, I'm so confused. His high school is not for low income people. Most of his friends and girlfriends wouldn't be black here. So I don't know that, like, I mean, that sounds maybe it didn't come off as like how you're meaning it to sound, but I know a lot of black people that have money. So I don't think white and money are the only thing that go together. I know a lot of black people who are wealthy too. So okay, double advocate, I guess. Were his parents already accusing the kids of doing something, because then you're walking into a hostile situation, and I could see why they wouldn't want to do that. I don't think they're accusing the boys of doing anything. All they want is an independent investigation, because that's what they're saying is like, both parties have a different story. So whether the girl's lying or the boys are lying, somebody's lying, right? And so they're not accusing anybody of doing anything. They're just saying it doesn't add up and they want an independent investigation. So I didn't get that at all. And okay, let's see. My kids attend St. Patrick's Catholic Higgs School, which is 15 minutes from his high school. Okay, so you are local as well. Excellent, excellent. I live nearby. Okay. I meant no disrespect with that comment. Yeah, I figured you didn't. I just didn't want it to come off a certain way because I mean, like I said, I think, you know, I know just as many Black people with money and who are successful as white people as well. Okay, but in the way they acted or didn't act, it could have been held against them. It's a very emotional situation either way, and there's no right answer in my opinion. And you're right. You're right. You're right. I could see it being held against them either way. However, I personally don't like it. I think it looks worse if you're worried about it being held against you. It looks worse not going. That's just me, but I get it, and I get why they might not wanted to go. But I think it looks worse in my opinion. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see what else the video says.
People, and quote, they're trying to spin a narrative that's not there. He's wrong. I understand Nolan's parents are grieving, and I really think he's taken a little bit of advantage of that, and I don't like that. I really don't, because they're vulnerable. And Shepard asks for everybody just to relax and let everybody mourn the loss of Nolan, and let us remember him as the sweet guy he was and not something we're scared of because of the trauma we've had. If Ben Crump is doing his own...
I got a lot of problems with this statement. I don't know what attorney he ran this by, but I have a lot of problems with this statement right here. First of all, everybody to just relax. Nope. 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 That's, again, that, did he run this by an attorney? I don't know, but if so, and that attorney said, okay, here's the green light to go, like, you're a bad attorney. I don't recommend this at all. All right. So again, and if let us remember him for the sweet guy he was and not something we're scared of because of the trauma we've had. Okay, so now you're making yourself a victim. I don't like that. Also, if he's a sweet guy, why are you not at his funeral? And you went from sweet guy to something we're scared of. Why are you scared of him? So if you really dive into this is problematic in my opinion. It's weird. It's weird. And also you have to remember he's what, 18? I don't know. Weird. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, I don't like a lawyer advising him not to go. It looks bad. And to Side-Eye's point, I could see where they might advise him that. Because he is going to be looked upon and people are going to judge him no matter what his reaction is at that funeral. 100% she's right. But to me, it looks way worse not going than any reaction he could have at the funeral. But you know, people are going to see it differently, but that's just for me. Ocean Springs High School and the city of Ocean Springs is well-off city and school district. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, regardless, I don't care if they're well off. I think it's still very nice that the funds were given to them because that's, listen, funerals are not inexpensive. They are very expensive. And independent autopsies and things like that are very expensive as well. So certainly it was a really kind gesture, especially at this time. They shouldn't have to, you know, worry about the money if someone is willing to to be so generous. I think it's great. But okay, maybe the boat kids were not invited to the funeral. I haven't heard that actually, and in fact, I've heard, I guess, council said for them not to go. I don't think there's been any blaming, finger pointing at anybody other than them saying that the stories are not making sense. What they're saying and how they know their son to be doesn't seem to add up, and them just wanting an independent investigation. Now, what the public and the internet does is a whole nother story. I don't know, but I haven't heard anybody like pointing fingers saying this person did something to my son. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything, but and yeah, the female, her story doesn't add up either. It's not just the boys. So that's why we need an independent investigation. Nona says, I agree with Chad. I would have had the kids go to the funeral unless they were specifically told not to. But it was his friend. It would kill me not to go. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nona. Yeah, I don't, something tells me that he didn't run that by an attorney because that's the worst state. I mean, that statement's awful. Yeah, extremely weird wording. Something that word choice in and of itself is problematic. Very, very. I know you guys think that. Yeah, no worries, Chad. It's no worries. We're not a judgy place here. We make fun of things. We laugh about things. Whatever. It's not very serious here, so no worries. But I don't know. I just have a real big problem with that. Okay. Also thought it was weird that one of the friends said that he didn't want to see Nolan die. I don't know, my opinion. That whole statement seemed off. I completely agree, Kayla. That's really weird. I haven't heard that. Maybe it's in this here and what we can see, but that is certainly weird if he said that then. How can anything be assumed without an autopsy? People making up all kinds of scenarios. Yeah, and I think that's the problem, was that the investigators said everything seems like just a normal drowning. It doesn't seem like there's anything, nothing nefarious. And I think that's where they were like, what? Like, huh? You have to investigate. Something's weird because there's two different people in two different groups and they're telling different stories and they both can't be true. So, I mean, good on the family for speaking out because it doesn't seem like they were going to look into it at all. I don't care who you are. You deserve that. Your family deserves that. Your kid deserves that. So, yep. First of all, Skinny Chicken, I'm so sorry that you had to bury your son. And yes, funeral costs are insane. So it's definitely, a burden, whether you have some money or not. It's a lot. And when you're grieving, that shouldn't be the thing that you're, concerned about. It is like, I wish all the narratives of this being erasing would slow down. It's pretty normal interracial friend groups and dating here, despite our state's history. Yeah, that's my understanding, Chad. And like I said, this does not seem like a race thing to me. And that's why, I don't love Crump jumping on this one, but there are good things when Crump does jump on something, like eyes getting seen around the world and people like Kaepernick coming in and offering to pay for things, Tyler Perry. So there are good and bad, but I do not see this as a race thing. I've heard not one thing, and I have heard that it is a diverse area, and that state has come very far in, not having old-timey views on, like, we're progressing in that state from my understanding, which is good. Preliminary autopsy tomorrow. Will it show racism? Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but obviously autopsies don't show racism. Okay, Ray played a clip of it a few streams ago. Okay, great. Good. I do wish his sons had showed up and touched his casket and hugged his mom and dad. His father's face displayed much pain that pain at that closed casket funeral. Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard to, I can see why they wouldn't want to go. I really can. Because their everything would have been scrutinized, like Side Eye said, that she's 100% right. But I just think it looks worse not being there. But I don't know. Okay. Cassandra, how can yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she was trying to be funny or what, but okay. Hello, 420. How are you? Okay. I live in Louisiana and I think we are less racist than Massachusetts. Good. There seems to be a lot of racism going on in Massachusetts. Oh, goodness. Free the First Amendment. How in the world does an autopsy? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. The Friends have been getting death threats because people are pushing a racist narrative. I'm sure the Friends didn't feel welcome with a lot of people there, part of this narrative. Yeah. Yeah, and there is never I hate when people get involved like that with to where death threats are, that's ridiculous. Again, it seems weird. Seems like there could easily be something off with this, my opinion. However, we have no proof that something's off. So, shame on the people who are allegedly doing the death threats. That's insane. Stop that. Yeah. So I don't know. All right, let's finish this video up. We don't have much more else. I want to hear what this more statement. Is there more from this guy? Because this is really weird.
His own investigation, let him do it. And then let the sheriff's office conclude their investigation and figure out the facts on their end. Let us all just know the truth instead of jumping to two conclusions about things. We did no wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind us. We all cared and loved Nolan, and nobody wanted to see Nolan die. Nobody.
So again, this part is less problematic for me than the first part because the first part was so awful, but still little weird wording here. But also, we cared and loved Nolan. Okay, well, then go to the funeral. That's contradictory to your statement here. So that's interesting. I just know I lost my best friend. Wells was just somebody that you automatically just felt so comfortable to talk to. To the people who are local, do you know if Shepard and Wells were on a team together? Or did they play football together? If only if you know. Nobody would ever hurt Nolan in our friend group. We would die for him. We would do everything in our power for that guy. It's weird wording. If you needed anything, we would do it. Nolan brought us all together. I mean, I feel like some of that is heartfelt. Some of it is weird wording. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, the reason they played football together. Okay. All right. The reason I'm asking that is because the fact that he called him Wells, that only makes sense and would make sense if he played on a team with him, and you're saying he does, so that tracks. Because otherwise, that's weird. But that's athletes; they call each other by their last name all the time, so that makes that completely normal. Yeah, I don't think that's what I'm saying, Cassandra. I just don't see this as a race thing. We don't even know that something nefarious happened, but that's why an independent investigation needs to happen, because it needs to be ruled out. But we have no idea what happened. It could be something like he literally hit his head jumping off a boat and drowned and whatever. We don't know, but to me, this is not. There are cases that, yes, there could be a racial component to it. I just don't see this one as being that case whatsoever. Okay, Nolan ended up getting a football scholarship to Southwest Community College this year. Was his freshman year. It's horrible. It's horrible. The whole thing is just awful. But again, you know what? These other boys, let's also see it from their point. They deserve an independent investigation, because if they had nothing to do with it, they should be cleared, and they should want that too. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they don't have anything to hide, give your phones up. Give your phones up and let them clear you. Because their name shouldn't be dragged through the mud if they didn't do anything. That's why independent investigations are so vital. It is not only vital for the victim and their family, it's also vital for the people who could possibly have fingers pointed at them. It can clear those people's names. So it's very important on all aspects of it. All right, let's finish this up here.
Wanted to see his life be taken so short. I just know I lost my best friend. Wells was just somebody that you automatically just felt so comfortable to talk to. Nobody would ever hurt Nolan in our friend group. We would die for him. We would do everything in our power for that guy. If he needed anything, we would do it. Nolan brought us all together. And look, we now know one of the potential next steps, that this case could potentially be presented to a grand jury. Ben Crump announced that during a press conference, that the family had met with Jackson County District Attorney Angel Myers McGrath. And the key takeaway from that meeting was that the DA said, according to him, that they would turn the case over to a grand jury for potential filing of charges or indictment once the sheriff's office finishes its investigation. To be clear, though, that's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that it'll be presented to a grand jury. It's not a guarantee that a grand jury would return an indictment. And by the way, we're not even saying that would be a homicide charge. Someone could potentially be charged with a crime that's unrelated specifically to Nolan's death, tampering with evidence, lying to police. I'm not saying that happened, but I'm just giving you something to consider as we talk about the possibility of a grand jury. Going back to Sheriff John Ledbetter, he told ABC, I think it's important we don't put ourselves on a timetable, that we don't rush ourselves, but I do think it's important to be diligent in gathering all the facts. That's what the family deserves. He's right. That is what the family deserves.
The family deserves someone completely independent of you, Sheriff, to be looking into this case. That's what the family also deserves. Somebody completely with no bias, no skin in the game. Even the appearance of bias needs to be avoided. And the fact that one of these kids is a son of a judge that works closely with law enforcement in that agency in that town is problematic. We've seen it all around the country, and it doesn't look good. If this were to ever go to trial, it just doesn't look good. Also, there's some jurisdiction issues from what I've heard, because the island being out away from that is technically not. It's some weird stuff. So I don't know if they've got that figured out yet, but that puts a little different spin to it as well, apparently. So some weird stuff with that. Found face down and buried closed casket. Sad ending for a good young man. There are many videos on TikTok of his peers emotional over it. Yeah, it is terrible. It's so sad. And you know, if you know, like, were there hopefully other people, other friends came for him to the funeral. I hate that he didn't have anyone. Okay, have a good night. Thanks for the insight there on the ground, and thanks for your thoughts there. But yeah, I hope some of his friends came to support him, because I hate that, you know, these fellas here didn't come. I hate that. I mean, I certainly can understand why they maybe didn't want to come, but I don't know. I think it looks worse that they didn't. All right, let's finish this up.
But look, we don't know what happened to Nolan. We don't know what he did after 3 p.m. We don't know if he died in the water, on land, or on a boat. We don't know if anybody had a role or there's criminal culpability here. We don't know if his phone was tampered with. We don't know who's telling the truth or not. But what I do know is we're going to stay on top of this and see how this progresses. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
All right. Yes, that's a very fitting comment to wrap us up here. It's all the way around. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Is this something you guys would like to follow? I know I'm going to follow it regardless. But we can, keep having these little meetings about this case. Certainly I want to see where this goes, and I just hope that they're more transparent too. There hasn't been a press conference by anyone but the family and the attorneys for them, which is, I think, kind of giving the community there a little more frustration. Like, come out, tell us something. Do you have a timeline? Do you have something? Like, give us something. Okay, awesome. We are wanting to follow it. Fantastic. ADHD in the making. I don't recognize your name, so if you're new here, thank you for being here. If there's anyone new here, please hit the subscribe button. We have a really good little channel that is growing, and a really good tribe that we love to engage with, the chat and all of that. So please hit that subscribe button. It is free. And you can hit the notification bell so that when I'm live, you'll get notifications and all of that. All right, let's see. This is no longer a black and white country despite your love for each other. Okay. If a little, and I'm not sure I understand, so I don't want to say something because I'm not sure I understand it. But if a lot of people follow it, then it may help force them to be more transparent. Absolutely. And that's the good thing about having a outlet in YouTube, right? Because people can speak out, and it sounds like the community is doing that already. But I know Court TV did a segment on this case, and I think it's important to keep the pressure because anybody deserves a thorough investigation. And it may be nothing, right? It may be nothing, but it may be something, and you have to rule it out. Especially when you're getting multiple stories that don't coincide with each other. It's a problem. So somebody knows more than what's being said, not necessarily nefarious, but agreed, Jill. Agreed. Yeah. Okay, us Hispanics are about to outnumber all the white people. We passed them by 25 years ago. Yeah, and that's a great thing about America, right? We have so many different beautiful races, different ethnicities, and that's the great part of America, right? Let's see. Okay, so that is, yes, let's keep up. Awesome. I hope the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation handled the case fully by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. I'm glad I found you guys. Awesome. Are you new here? If so, thank you for joining. And we always love Inside Scoop because we're not down there. And so you guys often have a lot more insight than people, just reading things on the internet. And you have how the community down there is feeling, the vibe you're getting. So that is very beneficial to us going over the case. So if you are new here, thank you. Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. Hopefully you subscribed and got your little notification bell on so that you'll get alerted when we go live next. Yeah, but I'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully Vinny will be covering it some more on Court TV, and I'll get to go on and talk about it with him, because this is definitely one that is interesting that I am invested in. And so let's see. Yes, rest in peace, Nolan. I mean, he just looks like a nice guy. He just looks like a sweetheart. So the whole thing is just very sad, and my heart goes out to his family, and my heart goes out to his friends. Like that's difficult. Let's see. Yes, there should be answers whether there was foul play or not. I hope if they find them, it will bring the family a sense of closure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. I mean, not having the answers, that is horrific. That's why I personally get my huge passion is missing persons cases, because you want to be able to find that person and bring them home to their families. Not knowing is the worst. So, this family deserves to know whether it was absolutely nothing nefarious, a horrible accident, or some culpability somewhere because of an accident. There certainly is instances where that could be the case, or something nefarious happened. I mean, whether it's any of those three, we just need to find out. And the boys and the girl both deserve that as well, because their names need to be cleared if nothing happened, and all of that. It's a win-win to have an independent, thorough investigation. So okay, Miss Priss, join late, rewinding to the beginning. Hopefully, I'll catch up. Well, thank you for being here. I know, there was, I guess, apparently there were some people live when I went live, and so I know a lot of you will probably be on the rewatch crew. So thank you to everyone on the rewatch crew. We normally have a little bit more people here in a live with us, but you guys are awesome and super engaged all the time, which is what I love about our little tribe here. You guys are awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. My youngest kid is 20. I would be losing my shit all over the place. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine. Yeah, I hope they get all the answers that they deserve. And yeah, it is just a very sad all around. I think it's so great that you work those cases, Lauren. They must be so emotional to work. Yeah, there's some that are tough, that stick with you. I can compartmentalize a lot of times very easily with what I do and not bring it home. It was like that with DCF as well. You have to. You can't bring those cases home, because you're not going to last long, and you're not going to be good at what you do. So, but some stick with you, and some you just can't help it. Some of those cases are awful, but those are the cases I like to work, because if you can help find someone and bring that to their family, a sense of closure, and also, getting evidence by finding someone to bring that person who did something to them to justice, there's no feeling like that in the world. So, but all right, yes, we do. Missing persons, rewarding, heartbreaking. Thank you for doing your work. You're welcome. I wish I could do more of it. But got to pay the bills with other stuff too. So there's a lot that goes into different aspects of investigating and all of that. But I try to do most cases with missing persons pro bono, because that's, I don't like the whole profiting off of someone's loss like that. So I try to do most of them pro bono. But anyways, thank you guys for hanging out with me twice today. I'm glad we got to come back and talk about this case. I don't want it, because there isn't a ton of information, right? And they're not really being forthcoming. I don't want this case to just kind of go under the radar, and people are like, yeah, whatever happened with that case, just because they're not talking and sharing things like they should. So hopefully with more people covering it and more people talking about it and tweeting about it, things like that, it will put pressure on them to give some information. I understand keeping things close to the vest, but they haven't been forthcoming about anything. And that's certainly far to this side, like there's a middle ground where they release some things. They tell you what's going on, at least in their investigation, not the findings of their investigation necessarily, but what they're doing. And I think they haven't even done that. And the community, that area, this family deserves that. So I'm glad you're able to compartmentalize as much as possible because it's the best personality and professional in the context. Yeah. Yep. And that, you have to, with working with kids with DCF, there's no way you can't, you won't last a couple months like that if you can't. You cannot bring it home with you. Now, there are some that no matter what you do, it's coming home with you because they're so rough. But yeah, it's definitely something that is best if you can. So let's stop with the death threats and shit. You fucking weirdos. Yeah, 100%. Stop that. Like, stop it. I don't care if somebody is found that they did something, you still don't do that. Like, what's wrong with people? I don't know. It's just ridiculous. People are crazy. Yeah, cut it out. Cut it out, people. All right. Well, thanks for hanging with me. I will not see you tomorrow. I don't think I have a super long day, but I will plan on doing something on Thursday. So I don't know what it is, what we're doing, but we will do something on Thursday. And I'm thinking maybe a little Chad pizza this weekend. So I'm going to reach out to some people and see. It's about time we played it. I have my hat. Side Eyes made me the logo, and we need to do it. We need to do the damn thing. So that should be fun. I'm thinking maybe Saturday. So I'll get with the people and let you guys know something. All right, guys. Love you guys, and I will talk to you Thursday.